first moto. I'm going to, you know, try to concentrate on it right now, and hopefully I get off to a good jump. And I think if I get a clean run at it, I have a chance at it, yeah.
What about the physical side? You took a pounding there for 45 minutes. What do you gather back up? Do you change anything for this one?
Well, just your pants and your socks, but other than that, you're using the same body, same machine, and just try to recuperate as much as possible in between races.
Well, the other rider that almost closed but only managed to finish second was Jeff Ward. Jeff, you finished second to Rick Johnson. What about in this moto, this race? What are you going to do different?
Well, hopefully I'll just get off as good a start as I did the first one. Hopefully one position more than David. But I'm going to run the same race. I had some lappers getting into my way at the end of the moto there, which I was closing a little bit. I feel really strong. I'm going to do it the second moto.
Well, they're getting ready to start the engines here. We're going to get out of the way and throw it back up to Al Troutwig.
All right, Jack, good idea. I'm, of course, working with Sam Posey. We have touched upon the fact that it is the Americans against the Europeans. They're only meeting in this class of motocross all year, and 4 Americans took the top 4 spots in the first race. Now, remember, on a world championship scale, each of these races is a separate entity. Yet today, both races will be combined to crown one U.S. Grand Prix motocross champion. Sam, what about thoughts before the start and strategies for all the riders?
Everybody knows how important the start is, Al, and they leave this starting line here on a wide part of the track that funnels down to a narrow turn that's only 2 or 3 lanes wide. How you do, the traction that you get, you see the starting gate there on the left. It'll drop down, allowing the bikers to go. This is a look from a camera that we have mounted on the helmet of one of the riders, so we're going to have a chance to look at the start. Dick Gracia is going to be carrying our helmet mounted camera for us today. But you've got to get a good start, and they all know it.
Fatigue, exhaustion, all problems in this sport. Imagine they've had their bodies battered already for 45 minutes. This event, part of Wide World of Sports since 1971. It's the first time it has been live. We're ready. Oh, and a problem off the far side on the starting gates. Somebody tried to jump that gate, and you just can't do it. The early leader is number 3, Eric Gabors, 23 years old. They call him the Kid because he's so small, but he has been a rider of great success.
This is the first time today that a European has looked good here today. Gabors from Belgium, a second-generation rider, getting the good start they all talk about with Andre Malherbe, the 3-time world champion, right behind him.
What a difference from the first race, which was dominated by the Americans. Right now, in the early stages, the opening lap of this one, it is 2 Europeans in front. Eric Gabors, number 3, and Andre Malherbe from Monaco in the second position.
But what I think is so important is that in third is Jeff Ward riding that green bike. Jeff Ward in third. He finished second in the first moto. And Ward, when he gets a good start, psychologically, he's very tough. Ward does not like to run mired up in traffic, but he's got the start that he needs. He's ahead of Ricky Johnson at this point. He's ahead of Ron Lachine, who is in 4th place. So really, Jeff Ward, in some ways, perhaps more than Eric Gabors, who you see in the lead. Perhaps, in fact, Ward has moved into second suddenly. So it is Jeff Ward looking the strongest, Al, in my mind right now.
A much tighter race than we saw earlier today. A word about the course. It is 1 mile long and has varying degrees of dirt texture. Some mud, some very light sand, which is very slippery. Some water puddles on the course, and lots of holes. Gabors in trouble, but holding on. Lots of holes and potholes and pratfalls that can really take the starch out of a driver after 40 minutes. You see Rick Johnson, I believe, has moved up into 4th position.
And I think, really, that Jeff Ward is probably more conscious of where Rick Johnson is, even than of where Eric Gabors, the leader, is. Both of them, my prediction is, in due course, will pass Gabors. Well, you speak about the track. This is the only part of the lap that seems to be dusty at all. You see, look at that beautiful positioning by Ward. They're almost coming together, and Ward just out-finessed Eric Gabors. What a beautiful move. All right, now, the important thing is, of course, Gabors forms a sandwich between Ward, who's going to pour it on as much as he can, and his American pursuers, chiefly Ricky Johnson. Important development here.
The leader is number 12, Jeff Ward, 25 years old. As you look at the standings, Eric Gabors is in 2nd place, the Belgian. Andre Malherbe, Ron Lachine, an American, and David Bailey in 5th place. So Jeff Ward, the current leader, the kid from Mission Viejo, California. We're going to get a chance now to go back to the start and look at it from the perspective of Dick Gracia, who is known as a privateer, someone on his own, no corporate sponsorship, and oh, the traffic and the dust.
This gives you some idea of what the competitor faces. I mean, it's an impenetrable wall of human beings and machinery. Gracia marvelously missing first that fallen rider and then the hay bale that he swung wide and almost got into. And then look, that's why you want to lead. See the dirt and mud already getting on the visor and the helmet of Dick Gracia. That's why you want to be out front, as Jeff Ward is right now.
The term "eat my dust" comes to mind as we look at the leader, Jeff Ward, and our coverage live from Carlsbad will continue in a moment. All right, Jack, the atmosphere could not be more different from the sport of golf than it is here in Carlsbad. Al Troutwig along with Sam Posey and Jack Arute, the leader rather, is number 12, 25-year-old Mission Viejo resident Jeff Ward. Rick Johnson, the winner of the earlier race today, has moved into second place. Eric Gabors from Belgium is in third. A much tighter race than it is earlier, in a sport that the followers of which seem to feel has the toughest, most fit athletes in all of sports. They run, they swim, they bike, they seem to do it all, and they're proud of their fitness. And among the most fit is this man, Jeff Ward.
I think he might be the most fit, less than 10% body fat. Man who literally makes a fetish out of fitness. And you see his closest pursuer, Ricky Johnson. Now, Johnson in the first heat was faster than Ward, but Ward did not take the chances, Al, that he's taking right now. You've noticed Ward out of shape several times. Johnson has had the season all his way so far this year. He's been almost unstoppable. Interestingly, it was Ward last year in that position, winning almost all the races, and Johnson only a few. Are we seeing the turning point here at the middle of the season this year? Or are we just seeing a pursuit by Johnson that will pay off by his closing up on Jeff Ward? Look at that. You see what I mean? Ward made no mistakes like hitting that berm in the first heat at all. So I definitely see Ward as a little bit over his head, and hearing the whispering sound of Ricky Johnson closing up on him.
All right, I believe we're going to step away from the leader, Jeff Ward, for just a moment for something I think you'll enjoy. The view from our race cam on the helmet of Dick Gracia, 30 years old, from Cupertino, California. Father of one, a carpenter who had to actually ask his boss for days off, as he does throughout the motocross season, to make it here. And that costs him a lot of money. Here we go.
All right, well, you watch the many different types of terrain over which he rides. Here's the mud. He is at the bottom of what is called the Carlsbad Freeway. He will be riding. This is live. He is climbing up to the highest point on the track, Al. To get traction here, he's riding way back on the saddle of the bike, his arms stretched out, almost as if he's doing an extended pull-up. They say it's almost as if your arms are pulled out by the sockets by the time you reach here, the high point on the track, where you can see the rest of the track for a split second spread out in the valley below you and get a little bit of a breather. Here's the second jump on the downhill. You know, it's only when the bikes are in the air that the rider can rest. The rest of the time, it's just inexorable pounding. Here, this steep hairpin turn at the bottom of the downhill, incidentally, a place where so many riders have gone off through the years. Look at the spectators lining the track. If you get into the lead and you've just passed someone, they'll wave you on. It can be quite a factor for the hometown favorite. So our man is giving it quite a marvelous ride. I think Dick, obviously, he's got the weight of the camera on his helmet. It's not very heavy, just 17 ounces, but it's, I think, a slightly imbalancing thing. And you see the many different types of terrain over which you ride in just a minute or so around this track.
Back to the leader, number 12, Jeff Ward. He comes from that city so often known for swimmers and divers, Mission Viejo, and he, of course, is the premier motocross rider right now from that town as he rumbles through the crowd of about 12,000 on a partly cloudy, relatively cool day for this area of Southern California. We're about 30 miles north of San Diego in the city of Carlsbad.
You could see the crowd urging him on there. Incidentally, it was right in front of his house during the Olympics that the bicyclist went by and got enthused. He got enthused.
Here's the format for today. There are 2 races which are comprised of 40-minute sessions and then 2 final laps. The winner of each race receives points on the World Championship Series, which really is only critical to the Europeans. What the Americans care about, because they don't compete on that World Championship Series because they don't want to go to Europe, is winning the overall U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship, which is determined by the total standing from both motos. So Jeff Ward, who finished in 2nd spot, is very, very happy right now, because if he comes in 2nd, he would be the champion for the day. Our live coverage will continue. It is Ward, and right behind him, Rick Johnson. Back live once again in Carlsbad. We are watching the 2nd moto, the 2nd race of the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship. If you finish higher in the 2nd moto, that would be the tiebreaker, Sam, virtually for Ward, who is in front.
Yes, indeed. The point is that if you wind up with a 1st in the 1st moto, a 2nd in the 2nd moto, as Ricky Johnson might if he can't pass Ward, and your rival, in this case Ward, finishes 2nd in the 1st moto and 1st in the 2nd moto, it's the man who finishes higher in the 2nd moto that emerges as the winner. In other words, right now, if the order were to be frozen here, Jeff Ward would win this race overall. So Ricky Johnson, and you see him pursuing here in the 13th minute and beginning to catch up. There'll be 40 minutes of racing and then 2 laps after that. But in other words, Rick Johnson must pass Jeff Ward to be the winner. It couldn't be a more clear-cut situation.
Now behind these 2, there's a race between the Europeans, who so desperately want to earn as many points as they can on their World Championship Series. But right now, near the top at least, they're being dominated by the Americans, who consider this the course of their backyard.
You watch the different techniques, and there's Jeff Ward on the left of your screen, and the green bike, Ricky Johnson catching him slowly. You'll notice the techniques seem different. Ward seems less fluid. One of the reasons for this, he's a much shorter man. Ward, very, very compact, strong physically. Ricky Johnson, taller, leaner, looser, and you'll see the difference in their riding styles. And you see, incidentally, that Johnson is closing. I mean, there's no question that although Ward has no rear-view mirrors on that bike, he knows, he hears that other bike already. Right behind him, they're very close.
Johnson right up on the rear wheel of Jeff Ward. One burst of the throttle, and he would have been by him. But it is not the time to commit yourself and make a silly mistake. Johnson right up on the back of Ward again as they fly through the air. Over Devil's Drop.
All right, this is where riding absolutely on the limit, and with the knowledge that a man is right behind you, this is where mistakes can occur. Jeff Ward is a nearly mistake-free rider. He's methodical, he's careful, he rarely screws up. But I don't know, hearing the echoes of Ricky Johnson, the man who has just bedeviled his competition this year by winning almost everything in sight, could Ward crack under this pressure? I don't know.
2 Californians battling it out. Last year it was Ward who captured the 250cc and the Supercross titles. This year it was Johnson who took it away. And how dearly he would love to win on this course at Carlsbad, which is seeing the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross for the last time. That's right. After this, it is moving to Northern California between Salinas and San Jose. Next July, it will be held again without skipping a beat. But because of this huge building monster that's come from the ocean, the industrial park condominium monster, this course will hold the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship no longer after today.
All right, a critical point of the course is coming up, Al. After this drop here, there's some mud ahead, and then there's this long uphill section called the Carlsbad Freeway. This is about the best place on the track to make a move if you get through this part fast. I think we'll see Ricky Johnson, who only 2 weeks ago made an important pass up here in another race here on a man named David Bailey, who you see now is running in 3rd. And if he's going to make a move on Ward, it may be through here. No, I thought he had a better shot at it than he did. They reached the top of that part of the track without Johnson catching Ward there. So his edge may not be in power up that hill. It may be in the tighter stuff such as this, in the handling. Another small mistake by Ward. Johnson, whoa, whoa. Yeah, that was it. Ward did make a mistake, fatal enough to let Johnson by. How about that?
In the 16th minute, with just about 24 minutes of racing to go before the signal to race, 2 final laps is given, Ricky Johnson is back in front. In the first race today, he won it wire to wire. This time it took him 16 minutes to pass a couple of Europeans and his California nemesis, Jeff Ward.
Well, it looks bad for Ward right now, but just remember, if Ward does have a trump card, it's his fitness, all right? He's very, very tough. Let's have another look. Now, watch as Ward on the right hits the berm, the bank of earth on the outside. See that? That robs him of traction and momentum as they go off there. In other words, he's already dead meat, really, for Ricky Johnson, who has the acceleration and the positioning on the course. An easy pass, and Ward showed himself to be a gentleman, incidentally, did not shut the door on Johnson.
Sam, you followed motorsports for a long time and were actually a participant. I'd like to hear your thoughts about where these guys fit in the world of motorsports. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Rick Johnson, our leader, live in Carlsbad on Wide World of Sports. The day began with 32 of the best motocross riders from Europe and the United States. And so far, the guys with the home dust advantage, if you will, the Americans, have claimed the prestige so far. Johnson, Ward, and Bailey, Americans, all the top 3 spots. ABC's coverage of baseball continues this Sunday and Monday. First of all, tomorrow you'll see the Dodgers and the Astros, or the Phillies and St. Louis, beginning at 3 Eastern time. Then on Monday, you'll check out the Mets and Cardinals, or the San Diego Padres and the Houston Astros, an East battle or a West battle. On Monday Night Baseball, the season premiere beginning live at 8 Eastern time, as we check in with the leader, Rick Johnson, who has pulled away from Jeff Ward. You're looking at the shot of our helicopter provided by Mike Friedman, whose legs dangle from the chopper piloted by Harry House as they circle the course in pursuit of Rick Johnson. And pursuit is certainly on the mind, as it was in the first race, of Jeff Ward, who again is in the position of trying to catch the man everybody in motocross has been trying to catch this year, Rick Johnson. And Sam, he's such a unique guy. In all the success and adulation that he has received, he has been alone at the top and quite frequently likes to train and be alone. We asked him if he was content to have things that way.
Well, it's not so much that I'm content to be by myself. My schedule sort of forces me to be. It's hard to find someone to go running with you every day because people got to work and they got other things to do. I can't expect my friends to be there for me all the time when I need them. So you learn to enjoy the time by yourself because you're crammed with people on race day wanting your shirt, your helmet, your pants, your autograph. You know, you don't really get that much time to yourself. So the time I spend by myself, I really enjoy it, and I think about, you know, everything from life to racing to money. You know, there's a million things going through my mind all the time.
In this world that we don't see very often, this private world of motocross, these guys make some money. Rick Johnson, of course, one of the leaders in that category, better than $500,000 this year. Let's go down to Jack Arute. Jack?
Al, we're down here in what they call the mechanics corner, and it's very important. One wouldn't think that a mechanic could do much during the course of an event, but what they do is let their rider know just exactly what they think they should be doing. Interesting, during that overtaking by Rick Johnson by your early leader, Jeff Ward, Johnson's mechanic kept saying, first, close in and race. Then he put up on the board one like this, think. When he got out in the lead, he started putting just how far in front he was going and kept saying, go on, go on.
Okay, Jack, thanks. Now, Sam, I want to know from you, where do these guys fit into the world of motorsports in terms of endurance and strength and prestige and skill?
Well, certainly in terms of endurance and strength, you see we're 22 minutes into this moto, which will run approximately 45 minutes altogether. So we're about halfway through at this point. Certainly in terms of endurance and strength, they are supreme athletes, far more true athlete than the men from Indianapolis or even Grand Prix racing, for example. In fact, I really think of these riders as being less part of the world of motorsport and more part of the world of real athletics. For example, many of them have run in marathons. So some have even run in triathlons. So these are superb athletes.
Okay, they are in shape, and so often they pay the price. On Broadway, they say. Back live in Carlsbad, California, Al Trawick, Sam Posey, and Jack Arute. We have just passed the halfway point in the second race of the day, which makes up the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship. Right there, the leader is 21-year-old Rick Johnson, wearing number 25 from El Cajon, California. He is making, as are the other 31 riders, what will comprise the final laps at Carlsbad. After being part of the motocross scene for so many years, it seems as though Carlsbad's days are numbered. After this year, it will move north near Salinas and San Jose. Sam Posey had an opportunity to look back on what are so many fond years in the memories of everyone on Wide World and in this sport.
Looking back to the early years of Carlsbad, you notice how little has changed. The appeal of motocross is its simplicity, the directness of man against man. And technology hasn't had much more impact here than it has, say, in prize fighting or baseball. Sure, some things are different. This was the old starting gate, a Rube Goldberg sort of affair. Suspensions used to be stiffer with less movement, and the rider's equipment was more Newt Rockne than Darth Vader. What you do notice is the change in the riders. 15 years ago, the sport was dominated by the Scandinavians, strong, husky woodsmen with names like Heikki Mikkola and Bengt Arberg. But Aki Jansson has become Ricky Johnson, and motocrossing's new ruling class, the young Southern Californians, are fitter and far richer than their Nordic forerunners. But do they enjoy it anymore? Winning Carlsbad, then, as today, the highlight in any rider's life.
The highlight in any rider's life, indeed. Ricky Johnson, number 25, still the leader. We are in the 26th minute, which means we have 14 minutes to go before the final two-lap flag is waved.
You saw that winner's kiss, Al, and admit it, you decided you wanted a career in motocrossing right then and there.
Oh, but it's much too late. It's a young man's sport. Johnson, 21, and still in the lead. He has pulled away now almost 10 seconds in front of Jeff Ward. And this is exactly the way it was in the first race today. Once again, we are live in Carlsbad, California. We will return in just a moment.
Who is...
What a special Saturday we have planned for you on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Next Saturday, speed will be the thing at the Dream Mile from Bislett Stadium, home of 45 world records. Then the Firecracker 400, and then Liberty Weekend Celebration, live reports from Battery Park. That's next Saturday. Don't miss it on ABC's Wide World of Sports. We are back live in Carlsbad, where speed is not necessarily the thing. Quickness is it. These 500cc bikes of 62 or 63 horsepower only go an average of 35 miles an hour. But from our vantage point, Sam, it's fast enough with the danger.
Clearly, it's a sport that requires incredible reflexes, as you'll see as we run the POV, and our man, Dick Gracia, doing a marvelous job staying out there on the track for us so that we can get a feel as we see from this shot. Whoa! Why is his head turning so much? I don't know. Hitting bumps rougher than it seems like. We can get a feel for the track, which today, because of the overcast that has persisted since the spring, you just saw Kees van der Ven go by. The Dutch rider who won one of the Grand Prix earlier in the year and is considered an expert in sandy conditions. Usually this track is anything but sandy. It's hard-packed adobe, very dry with a little dust over it. Less traction here at Carlsbad than at almost any other course that they run on. But today, the track is richer, loamier. It should have been better for the Europeans. And frankly, Al, I think the fact that the Americans are dominating the race here today means that they may have finally achieved total supremacy in the world of motocross.
We will now be with Dick Gracia as he enters something known as Rattlesnake Gulch. But far, far away from him is Ricky Johnson, number 25, still the leader. From El Cajon, California, one of 3 riders from El Cajon in the race today. Boy, that town has got something going for it in terms of this sport. Look at the second place now, standing between David Bailey and Jeff Ward. Bailey has just passed Jeff Ward to take over second place, and he has had a lot of success on this track.
Well, it was Bailey who won the race here. This is a lap bike going by, but we're going to be looking for David Bailey. There he is there. He just dropped below your screen, and there is Jeff Ward now back to third. Ward's strong point is his fitness. He may be able to make a move a little bit later if the sun stays out and conditions become very tiring. But frankly, we're 30 minutes into the race now. You just saw first place Ricky Johnson going by. I think we're seeing Ward drop back slowly and probably will not finish any higher than he's running right now in third.
Right there, the second bike that you saw was the second place. There's the third spot held by Jeff Ward as they go over Angel's Leap, the hill we were unable to climb successfully earlier, Sam. 31st minute of the race, 9 more minutes to go, then the flag for the final 2 laps. Right now, Ricky Johnson looks like he is on the verge, barring a disaster, of capturing the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship. The good-looking, blonde-haired, suntan, 21-year-old Ricky Johnson still the leader of the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship. In the second race, he could win it if he holds on. Let's go down to Jack Arute.
Al, you and Sam had first-hand experience of just what the elevations are at this race course at Carlsbad, but directly over my shoulder you see one of the most treacherous. It's the downhill of the San Diego Freeway, and here's how the riders traverse it. They come across one plateau, never hitting the brakes. Aim for the next one, getting some 20 to 30 feet of air. They hit the second plateau directly over my shoulder, and then they land, braking hard on the rear side to traverse the corner here we call Brianna Bend. It's the backside of the course as they make their way back to the start-finish line.
With his back to the riders, Jack showing the true respect of these athletes that should be shown, I believe.
But he's not going to let us forget our slip on the hill.
Now, right now, things are going smoothly for Ricky Johnson and Jeff Ward and David Bailey, but all of them have had their share of bumps and bruises. Broken legs, as I mentioned earlier, are just a given in this sport. If you haven't had a broken bone, you seem to be nowhere in it. Let's go back to Jack Arute as he takes a look at Roger DeCoster and the price he has paid.
The physical side of motocross can take its toll on a rider, making him an old man before he turns 30. Now, as you can see, the protection is extensive, but the pounding produced by years of competition can leave you with a medical chart that's just about as thick as a dime store novel. Take a look at Roger DeCoster, a retired motocross rider whose last active year was in 1980. After 19 years of competition, here's the injury report. A split kidney, a broken left wrist, a broken left foot, a knee injury, a lost spleen, separated shoulder, broken collarbones, broken hand, broken ribs, a cut face, and assorted bumps and bruises. So after looking at those injuries, it wouldn't be hard to believe if Roger DeCoster thought he'd been to a gang fight and his gang didn't show up.
And the gang still hasn't been there for Roger DeCoster, the 5-time world champion. Certainly a good sport in letting us point out the failures that his body has endured over the years. Rick Johnson still the leader, number 25. David Bailey and Jeff Ward, the top 3. Things didn't change too much in the first race in terms of the standings, and they aren't changing too much in this race either.
No, Johnson's lead is about 8 seconds over Bailey. Bailey, his pursuer, was the man that won both heats here last year and went on to win this race last year. So Bailey, man, certainly knows what he's doing around this course, but is being shut down right now by Rick Johnson.
About 5 minutes to go, then the final 2 laps. In the first race, Johnson almost lost it in the final 2 laps. The climax of this one is still ahead.
There's a dynamic...
After being atop his motorcycle for more than 80 minutes in total today, Ricky Johnson still looks relatively sharp as he leads the second moto or second race in the U.S. Grand Prix Motocross Championship today. You're watching it live as it happens. I'm Al Troutwig along with Sam Posey and Jack Arute. Johnson, Sam, I told you yesterday that he tends to lean forward and sit up when he's tired. I don't really see him doing a lot of that right now.
No, we're not seeing any evidence of that. You know, I think his season has been extraordinarily focused, and I suspect he talked earlier about his aloneness. In fact, he's probably more alone than he'd like to be. A personal relationship he had for a number of years with a girl broke up recently, and you know, you don't want to think that something good could come of that, and yet he has had, in the wake of that personal disappointment, an extraordinary season. It's almost as if he's concentrating, trying to put that kind of thing out of his mind, and boy, does he ride beautifully, because I think in this sport, maybe more than any other form of motorsport, the concentration must be 100%. It's so easy to make the slightest error. We saw what happened when Jeff Ward got just a tiny bit wide. He got passed instantly earlier. So it is a sport of the most split-second decisions, and you must link that quickness of mind with quickness of body, which at this point, you spoke of him not looking tired. He doesn't look tired, but you can see as he passes some of his slower rivals how exhausted, you know, they have become. And it is fascinating to sit up here with you, Al, in this booth, which is so cool and airy, and watch these superbly fit athletes just dissipate their energy right in front of our eyes.
There was a race earlier today, 40 minutes, then 2 laps. Rick Johnson was the winner. And now, in this race, the same format, 40 minutes and then 2 final laps. The winner is determined by the highest combined finishes in both motos, which clearly right now would be Rick Johnson if the race ended now. The tiebreaker is the highest finisher in the second moto, which we're watching now live. This is part of an ongoing 5-month World Championship Series, which the Americans choose not to compete in, but the Europeans do. The Europeans have not fared well here on this course that the Americans are proud of because it's in their backyard. They practice on it. They're used to it. And it's just not a terrain that the Europeans are comfortable with. So they just haven't been able to do very well. And it's interesting because the Europeans used to dominate this, as Sam Posey told us earlier in that story about the history of Carlsbad.
Oh, yeah, in all the first years here, the Americans barely had a look at all at the Europeans, who just would finish a lap or 2 ahead. I mean, dominating them far more than the Americans are currently dominating the Europeans. But then in 1980 came the turning point. A man who lived right near here, Marty Moat,